Yeah, of course. So let's get started. So hi everyone, my name is Wuke. I graduated from Pratt IXD program in May 2022, and today I like to share what I have learned navigating from design school to enterprise UX. Next, please. Yeah, so today I will break into this session into four parts. The very first one is like a personal introduction, talk about the career paths I have been so far. The next part, I will give you some advice. Like it will be focused on my story, like both the success story and then the failing I had. Then this might take the majority of the time. Next, I will talk a little bit about enterprise B2B UX because I think for majority of people, this is not something they can um, touch when they were in school. And then finally, I will use the rest of the time for any question you guys may have. Next, please. Yeah, so I was born in China and got my college degree here in the United States. Before attending Pratt, I worked for this company called Fortinet. It's a California-based cybersecurity company. Well, I was studying at Pratt because I start my school years overseas. So I already started to work as a freelance designer. So that experience really helped me set up for the job search after graduations. So when I graduated, I found myself navigating several contract offer from companies like Comcast, Verizon, Google, alongside a full-time offer from JP Morgan Chase. So I ultimately contract at both of them, like Google and Comcast. But later that years, I was accepting a full-time position at VMware, where I joined the developer tool and platform teams. So less than a year, VMware was acquired by Broadcom. During that transition, I was promoted to senior product designer, moved to a different product team. And as is really common with large acquisitions like that, the company went through significant restructuring. And at that time, my role was impact in late 2024. So it took me a few months to prepare for my next move. And when I began my job search again, I was fortunate to have three offers on the table. But Okta truly stood out. It wasn't just about how great the opportunity was, but also the excellent benefits and immigration support. But what's really um, makes me choose it is the interview experience. So everyone I met from product to engineering and to design was incredibly sharp and collaborative. So it gave me the strong sense that this was just a place where I could truly, this was a place I could truly maximize my potentials and be part of amazing EPD teams. So I'm very grateful for that at the moment until today. That's remained the same. Next, please. Yeah. So, well, I know this whole short bio may sound like I have a straightforward success story, but this is not what I really want to focus on today. That's not the truth either. So it eventually everything worked out for me, but I'm not here today to sell you a formula that you can just paste and copy and paste, and then help you yourself on the job market. Instead, I think I rather offering a retrospective. So I want to talk about the factor I believe actually matters when you are doing job hunting. And also I will share honest feedback about things that I didn't do right. So that can help you guys avoid those mistakes. But before I get in any of that, I need to address that the single most important point, which is there is no trick, no skills or method would have got me here if I gave up. So all those things, the portfolio, the interview skill, the networking, they only get me a bit closer to the goal and to the offer, right? And the only reason I'm still standing here and the reason I got to this point is patience and resilience. Because nowadays we all know you're probably applying for 1,000 jobs, but you only have few interviews. But that means you will not get an offer? Not really, because all you need is just one offer. You don't really need to interview at Google, Amazon, and Microsoft and get all of the offers. You don't really need to do that. Just one offer can get you a job. And from that point, your career started, right? So just be patient and be resilient on that. So that's the very first advice I will give to everyone. Next, please. Yeah, so I basically won't just stop there and says you can just have those and you will got a job, right? So I'm just gonna talk about what works for me. So the first advice I will give to everybody is treat your job hunting exactly like a design process. That means we start with searching, research long before we even start to craft a portfolio or like writing your resume. So the research is about self-awareness. So are you really sure you want to be a UX designer? Or you study at Pratt, you want to be a UX researcher, you think that suits you the most. Or you have an engineering background, or you just like AI and coding, then why not to be a UI engineer or UX engineers? Those are different titles, and those titles will help you to find a career path that very different from each other. Next, you probably want to know, research more on the industry. So when you do job searching on LinkedIn, what is the difference between product designer to UX designer? What is the difference between UX designer to UI UX designers? So all those titles might be different. You might have a feeling that they are not different, but it is actually a lot different when you actually got the job. So do some research on that. Figure out the title that you want to be. And then you probably want to think about are you targeting the B2B or B2B space? Because those different paths will change the interview process dramatically. And finally, which industry do you ultimately want to land in and what the path to get there? So all those questions may not be important, or it seems less important when you start the job searching. You just want to get a job, right? But all those things really change your path to the future. And once you step on one of them, it's going to be hard for you to turn around. This might be very easy for people to turn around in 2018, but not today. So that's why I think you probably want to starting to make a list, figure out the question, make a list of companies that you want to join and work toward that direction. So the second thing is when you done with the research part, when you get to know yourself a little bit better, you probably need to find help along the way. And I'm not just talking about reaching out to people for special tasks, like getting a referral, find a mentor for interview prep, or just a whiteboard practice sessions. So those are transactional. So I'm talking about building long-term connections with people who can offer more than that. So finding people or especially the role that you are looking for, right? And think about, do you want to be this purple in 2 years? Find another role model that you want to see yourself in 5 years. And you may find some really high level design managers that you want to be in even 10 years. So learn about their stories and see how they get there. And do you want to go through that? Do you want to be this person in the future? So this is very important for you to understanding how the career will look like. And then keep them. One thing that a lot of people ignore is you forget to keep them updating on your growth over time, because this is not transactional, right? We want to have long-term relationships with them so that when it comes to a point they know you better, they will offer the help that you can never imagine. And then when you know yourself better, when you already get the right help, I think you're probably very close to an offer, right? And you probably will have more than one offer at some point. But this isn't the end. So look, I understand like people, especially new grad students, they will support themselves financially. For international students, they have visa issue. Or in some cases, you will get an offer that's a prestige offer from companies that all your friends and family knows about, right? And then you are very attempting to just say yes. Don't think anything before you make the decision. It seems really good, right? But I think this is the moment you need to be the most prudent. Like ask yourself some hard questions. Can you really see yourself working in the domain for the next few years? Are you generally excited to work with the people that you met during the interview? Do you really align with the company's value? If any of the answer is no, then think about this. You will stuck with this company maybe for a long time. Then do you really gonna enjoy this? Is this ultimately will change your career and how your morale when you're doing the next job search? So I think that three advice is something that I think I do taking care of when I accepting offers, when I starting to research on what I want, and then find the right support. Um, so that's the best advice I can give right now. Let's go to the next page. Yeah. So now you know a little bit more about what helps me. So let's just talk about the opposites that I wish I knew this sooner list. So I will start with the understanding the bigger pictures. So I got my first job through networking and worked at that company for 4 years. But I didn't really pay attention to how the company was doing, nor do I care about that. I feel like I just go there, get my job done, and then get paid. So this mindset got me into really big trouble this time. So I didn't see the sign that my first UX roles might have been a backfill for paternity leave, and I was completely unprepared for the first layoff I experienced. Later, when I was interviewed at VMware, I should have researched what an acquisition really means when the interviewer mentioned it, even in the interview process. I honestly, I probably gonna just take the offer no matter what for the reality, right? But I would have had a much better sense of how long these jobs may last, and what should I focus on learning along the way, and how to be prepared for the worst case scenarios. And then the second lesson I learned is be vocal and keep a record of your work. Since I don't really have the bigger picture mindset at the beginning, you can probably guess that I don't really keep good record of what I'm doing. Um, so actually, I think I worked really hard to get the job. I met my deadlines and I was actually involved in different design operations. One of my design actually showed in the company conference, but I didn't really keep record of any of that. I didn't really post those on LinkedIn. I didn't collect news or event links or even just screenshot what the news are, like company news when they release the products. So I thought I was being just humble and modest, and I didn't really want to brag it everywhere in social media. But the problem is that made me seems like I have no shining point during interviews. But luckily for me, when I starting to have those kind of questions like, do I need to do that? Do I need to be more vocal about myself? I met great managers and mentors who encouraged me to do so. So they want me to present more in leadership meetings, and they want me to shout out to myself in LinkedIn, at least just repost what it is. So once I started to do that, I got more attention from the leadership, and that visibility is what eventually saved me from another layoff. I'm sure there will be other things that I could have done better, but those are the two most valuable lessons that I feel are commonly ignored by new grad students. With the time we have today, these are the ones I want to share the most. So let's move to the next one. Yeah, so finally, let's just talk about the difference between B2B and B2C. So I feel like there are four major points. Like we don't really need to go deeper on these topics, but there are four foundational things I want to talk about. First is the user. So in B2C field, your user is the customer. So they chose to use your app. If your app is not fun, it's not beautiful, or even just not engaging, they delete it. But in B2B field, your user is often a power user. They must use your software to do their job. Maybe they have to do it for 8 hours a day. Their priority is not fun anymore. It's efficiency, accuracy, and then usefulness. So that's very important. You should keep in your mind. Secondly, the goals are different. So customers are here for fun, right? So they then when we measure the success, it's about driving engagement. Are they gonna stay here longer? What's the DAU? What's the MAU? So that kind of metrics helps you. But in B2B field, our goal is exactly the opposite. We drive productivity, right? Success is getting the user to finish their task faster so they can go home, so they can do something else. We want to reduce their time on the task. Then thirdly is complexity. So B2C design is often about hiding the complexity to create a simple experience. For example, a shopping experience, you want them to click less and then finish the shopping process, right? But in B2B, you cannot hide the complexity. You have to manage it. You can't really hide the data, so they don't really need to read the data. They still need to for example, we don't really build simple like simply feed. We build mass data table, we build complex dashboard, we build multi-step wizard that manages thousands of records, right? So your job isn't to make it simple, but to make it clear to the people where to find the information they need. And finally, your that comes to the constraints. So in B2C, the biggest constraint might be the brand guide. You need to make people realize this brand. You need to people remember you that still go back to the engagement, right? But in B2B, your biggest constraint is often technical reality. So you might be designing for a platform that's 10 years old or navigating a very restrictive APIs. So you have to work with your engineers. You work with them daily because the very first question you always want to ask is if this feature even feasible. So if that's not met, if that requirement is not met, then nothing, no pretty design, like no user experience is important at all. Okay, so I think that's the end of the presentation, and I can start to answering some questions. You guys can put the questions in the chat, so Roshni will let me know if there's something new. But I also have a question list. If nobody put their question right now, I can start in with the list. Okay.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. That was so insightful and such valuable points to always keep in mind. It was
Cool.
absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I can talk more, but we have a limited time. So, feel free to reach out to me like after the meeting or if you have more questions. But now I can just go over the question list with them. Cool. Okay, so the first question we have is, do you use any AI tool regularly in your design process? How do they fit into your daily workflow? So this is a brilliant question because I just talked about this with Roshni that our company just have a AI hackathon and we pair with EPD partner like engineer product team to using AI tools in our design process. Basically, with enterprise plan from Figma, we can use Figma Make and Figma AI at all time. So I feel like the majority of a company are now encouraging the designers to leverage that. For example, renaming your layers using a Figma AI. You have no idea like how that gonna be a mess up place. And then using Figma Make. So Figma Make is something very interesting. I think it will build something workable, like just for prototyping, but it's not gonna similar to the design work you are doing. So this might be good if you just work with earlier stage idea with your product managers. So that's how AI was used. And this when I joined at May, we are still like everybody just testing this concept, starting to play around. But now I think this become more dominant in our workflows. So I will encourage people to start to try. There are other tools, right? Like it's not Figma tools, it's not that expensive. So start to trying to use AI in your design process, but always remember like AI is a tool. It's not gonna replace you. So don't worry about it right now. Like from what I see Figma make, it will save your time. So try to think it that way. Yeah, I hope that answers the questions. Yeah. Yeah, and then there are other tools I don't really talk about, like Dovetail, that's for user UXRs. So they use Dovetail a lot to analyze the videos. So we use Gemini. Also in the process, we have some kind of prompt training as well. So every day we are asked to do some trainings like that. So embrace it. Like don't turn away. Like says I don't see it, I don't use it. Don't do that. Like this will get you if you know any of this better, you're probably gonna get your interview to the next stage. So that's my answer for that. The second question, oh yeah, I'm gonna skip this one. So because I don't really have a lot of experience with internships. Um, okay, so the next one is, as someone graduated in spring, what advice would you give for starting the internship search earlier and stand out to the recruiters? Um, I do really have less context on internship, but based on what I know, you probably want to focus on the combination of your resume and portfolio. Um, what I mean by that is to make sure your portfolio reflects what you have in the resume. Because sometimes I see some kind of broken experience. They have maybe a very old experience in the resume that don't really reflect anything on the portfolio, or the portfolio is way ahead of their resume. Like they using the most recent case study they have, but they don't really mention anything about it in the resume. Then as a recruiter, I may feel like, why? Like, are you not telling the truth? Or what happens? So I don't think we should add confusion to recruiters because they don't really have limited time. Think about all the schools, all the friends you have, they are all in the same major. And then, so all this kind of discrepancy made people feel less interest and engaged. So that's one thing. And another is, I think people just should do starting on internship as soon as possible. Even that means you don't really get an internship that you like, or you're waiting for the maybe Amazon says like 3 months later, I'm going to touch you back. In this 3 months, find yourself something. You start as soon as possible, and then they will help you get a full-time position later when you graduated. The next question, what are your top recommendations for build a portfolio website that will get you an interview and job? Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I have a lot of insight on this one, but I'm just gonna give the one thing that I think a lot of people ignored. I don't know if you guys taking the class to talk about web analytics and using Google optimized Google Analytics to track your website. When I take that class, after that I started to research on my portfolio, and they actually started stay the longest like on my about me page. Um, that's surprising. And I talked to a lot of people since then, and they also share similar findings. So the recruiters and the hair managers then spent more than a minute in your About Me page trying to know you. Why? Because you guys look similar to them when you just graduated. The projects are same, the experience are same, the schools are same, right? Then what makes you difference is the people who you are. So pay attention to that, spending a little bit more time to think about what kind of person you are, what kind of team you want to join. So then present you in that way. So when you really run into that company, that team, they will like you. And I see a hands up. Like, do you want to have the question right now?
Yeah, sure. Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. Something other than the content that I also really enjoyed were the illustrations that seemed like they were depicting you. They were very engaging, and visual design is something I'm, really trying to work on during my time here at Pratt. And so if I can ask like kind of a side question, is like how you went about making those?
So what I do like for my presentation is, or this is also a general advice for everybody, is building the personal branding, right? So I actually finding this a set of images online. So I do a little bit like recreation. So this is not something I did originally, but I modify and recreating the images to make it mo looks like me. And I'm starting to use this personal image cartoon image everywhere on my website, on my LinkedIn, and even now I use this as a avatar for my work. So people will see this and tie it back to me. And what I get from interview is everybody asks about is this something you created? I will be honest, this is something not like I originally created, but I know how to use it to leverage it. And that makes people likes about this as well. So I would encourage people to do something similar. It doesn't have to be this way. I see other people who has animals. I see other people who has even instrument. So they can be all kind of things that make people feel like when I look at it, I remember you. And that's very important when you do the interview.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Um, Okay, let me see what's the next questions. Tips on landing whiteboarding interview activities. What are they really like? So I think this question might be very different if you ask for a B2B designer and B2C designer. So for B2C designer, the whiteboard challenge can be very fun. They will have a one line question like how do you designing for example, elevator panel for a building has 1,000 floors. So they will have those creative questions that they can think about freely. But for B2B designer, we will always get interview question, whiteboard question like designing a chain restaurant ordering system for something, something, something. The longest uh, whiteboard prompt I read is 2 page, 2 page in the interview. You need to read it first and then do the design challenge. So this might be very different. But what are the same things? We will go to a stage that we are having a framework. So, for example, we are just first going to ask a lot of questions to define the context, then narrow down the scope we can do for the session, right? So this is a very complex process. I don't think I will have enough time to give you guys a full presentation on how to do whiteboarding. But the very beginning of this, I would recommend to read a book that's called Solving Design Exercise or Solving Design Problems. You guys should find this easily on Amazon. So in that book, they will give you a very basic structure how to do that. Um, and then I would recommend everybody not just using that exactly, but go to find a way that make you feel comfortable when you talk through the framework. Because that's what you are doing during a whiteboard interview. You will talk through your thought, like speak out loud, and then everybody just gonna watch at you. Like minimum, there will be one person. Maximum, I see 3 people there. So it's gonna be stressful. So another suggestion I will have is when you have the framework ready, find any people. You don't really need to find people with higher level design skill than you are. Just find different people to experiencing that, like designing in a very limited time. Because I think ultimately, no matter how good you are with your framework, the performance, like if you are nervous or not, really decided on the end result. So do as much practice as you can. And one thing I will find someone who is maybe a senior designer or something to give you some advice on the solution itself. But don't focus on the solution when you are practicing. Focus on if you can finish on time, if you can remember every step in your framework. Okay, so the next one, what is your recommendation to designers who are just about to enter the industry with minimum experience? Um, yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I can tell like why you guys have questions like that. And I don't really want to be the person that says everything is fine because everything's not fine. And it's getting harder and harder. So one thing I think everybody should just do is, if you have no legal trouble, starting to work for someone, as soon as possible to get you the industry experience, paid or unpaid. This is uh my personal opinions, just do what goes for you. So don't think a lot about the money when you were a student. You probably got some support from family. And at the same time, there are a lot of I think Pratt has program for entrepreneurs, right? Like finding all those startups who are willing to get start with you, and don't worry about you don't really get have a guidance when you're working with very earlier stage startups. So it's still gonna help you. It's still gonna help you to build the skills, especially like soft skills. So that's something you probably won't have if you just build something yourself, join a war. So that's something valuable there. So if you actually work with engineer, even for free unpaid program, or even the company didn't really make it in a half year or so, so those experience will get you through the hire manager stage because that's when they ask a lot about behavioral questions, and behavior question needs you to have the real experience. It's really hard to make it up. And then it's really hard if you don't really have any experience with engineers or PMs, or you don't have any conflict at all. It's not real to answer questions without that. So I would suggest everybody just start working at something as soon as possible. And then I think this is the final question. So, any advice for mid-career professions pivoting into a new career in UX and product design? I mean, this is really interesting because I think it's different from new grad students, like who probably just gonna have undergrad and master together. So when you already have experience, that means you somehow already have the communication skill, right? The soft skill we are talking about. And then the other thing you should leveraging when you're searching, when you're on job hunting is the previous experience. So personally, I came from this cybersecurity company as a web designer, right? So when I interviewing at Comcast and also Verizon, what matters to them is not actually I am a UX designer, is I usually know how those Wi-Fi device works. And I was actually recruiting for the Wi-Fi teams to do UX works. So that means if you have previous experience in any industry, you can starting to find jobs in those industry first. I know we probably change job because we want to do something different, right? But then the next step you can navigate into a different industry as a UX professionals. So that's something makes you a little bit advanced than student without experience. So that's something you should always keep in mind. Um, I don't see any new questions, so
There are actually a few new questions on the Q&A
oh.
tab. One was, I think, very similar to what you had answered. What do you think is the best approach for job searching for new grads when there are fewer junior and mid-level roles available?
Mhm.
So that was one question that we had.
Yeah, so well, I have to admit this is a very hard question to answer because even when I started to job searching back in 2022, there are not a lot of junior roles, and for junior roles, they have put you through even more um I think the more longer recruiting process. So that's the hardest thing. But I will say like it would patient I would say like just be patient. So uh every company has to recruiting someone new each years, but they are not gonna recruiting new grad students or junior at any moment because there is seasonal change in job marketing, and at this point, I mean maybe September, October might be best for junior level job, and then you have to wait until next March or February or March. So there will be gap between, and just don't give up on that. And I will suggest people, like for example, if you already have some experience in the past, applying for senior roles as well, because you never know, like right? Um, and then the other thing is different names doesn't mean they actually has the same expectations. For example, when I just graduated from Pratt and interviewing at JP Morgan Chase. The title I got is senior product designer. I am still senior product designer now, but actually the next job I had is just product designer. So different industry does value this different. I also see people who maybe just graduated the same year as I do, already a VP of design somewhere in finance industry. So don't just apply don't not apply this job because you saw the title is frightened. It's maybe way beyond your reach. Go to read the job description, make the judgment. Are you a good fit or not? But what I'm not suggesting you is like if you see there like 5 years experience, 8 years of experience, then probably you don't need to waste your time because that's the minimum requirement they put there. So normally, because when I used to apply for a job in a renowned company, and I see there says 5 years of experience, I applied and I reached out to an HR and asked about am I getting any chance? And she looks through the panel, says the minimum people they have is 10 years of experience. I have zero chance there. So that's one thing. The next question is, what's the biggest difference between a mid-level product designer with a senior product designer? How do responsibility change? So for one thing, I think you can try to Google it. There are a lot of different standards online from the different companies. And if you know anyone who work at any companies, you can reach out to them and they will let you know the difference because every company will have different standards. But what I can tell that really helped me get through the process is for a mid-level designer, you are an executioner. So you do what people are telling you. But for senior designer, you need to discover things for yourself. You need to promote things for yourself. You need to join roadmap planning. You need to be strategic thinking. So that's what's the job difference. But during interview, what you also need to show is you understanding the bigger picture of your work, like how this product is going to be looks like in to the company. So not just talk about the user problems, talk a lot about the business problem and how you can help that. That makes you advance from a mid-level product designer mindset to senior product designer. Yeah, I think that's all the questions. Cool.
Yeah, I think we're right on time with all the
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And thanks for everybody who joins today. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or ADP list. I'm doing mentorship there. Yeah, and I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Yeah. Thank you so much.